This video is kindly brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence.
Hi, my name's Janelle and welcome back to Rosery Apparel. Today I'm back with another attempting to sew a Japanese sewing pattern video. If you haven't watched one of these videos before, then let me catch you up. Last year I went to Japan for 6 months, and while I was there I picked up a bunch of these Japanese sewing pattern books. They are beautiful magazines with a whole heap of different sewing patterns and garments that you can make. So far I have made 2 garments from these books and both have turned out to be new favorites in my wardrobe. I honestly didn't have high expectations for either of them and they just turned out incredible. Both are very different to my usual style, but somehow just work perfectly for my taste and also work really nicely with the other items I already have in my wardrobe. I will leave the entire playlist down in the description below if you did want to go and check those videos out after watching this one. But today I'm going to attempt to make something from this sewing book here. I haven't made a garment from this book yet, so I'm intrigued to see if they are the same level of difficulty as the other ones or if they're a little bit easier to understand, because obviously all of the instructions are written in Japanese. So today I'm adding an item to my wardrobe that I know I'm going to love. I'm going to be making this beautiful tucked gathered skirt here. It's a skirt that has a gathered waistband at the back, which I feel like will be super comfortable, and I love a gathered skirt. It's basically my go-to look. But what I really like about this one as well is it's also got this tucked pleated look at the front, which is just something a little bit different from your typical gathered waistband skirt. It looks pretty complicated. I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea how difficult this is going to be, but I'm excited to give it a go and excited to see whether or not I can make a skirt that looks as good as this one here in the picture. To make my skirt, I'm going to be using this beautiful eucalyptus green linen that I picked up from Spotlight recently. It's a premium linen, so the quality is just so nice, and I think it's going to make up into the most beautiful long gathered skirt. I am so excited about this project. I feel like a skirt like this is missing from my wardrobe because yes, I do have a few gathered skirts, but they are all not long enough for my taste at the moment, and they also have been worn to death, quite frankly. I have high expectations for this project. I'm hoping it will turn out okay, but as per usual, I'm going to jump right in and not make a mock-up because honestly, making mock-ups really does suck the joy out of sewing for me personally, and it's kind of part of the fun and the challenge as well, if I'm honest, is the stakes are pretty high. So as you can see, this pattern book is no exception to how hectic the pattern template pages can get. This one's probably the worst I've seen. I've worked out, where is it? Here. This pattern page has the different numbers that you're cutting out. My skirt pattern, oh I see, A and B. I need A because my skirt number is number 5, so I'm looking for green pieces. As you can see, they are all kind of color coded, so there's purple, green, and they also are numbered, which I feel like is going to make it semi-easy to try and work out which piece is needed for the pattern I'm creating. Here's a look at the instructions I'll be working with for this project, and as you can see, they've actually got a little layout guide for the pieces I'm going to be needing, so this is also helpful to know how many pieces I need to find on this page here and what shapes they are and everything. There are some pockets, which I'm stoked about. There's also a waistband, the skirt pieces as well with the pleat lines marked out. Let's see if we can find these pattern pieces amongst this chaos. So once I'd found the template pieces I needed for my skirt, I then traced them out. I often get asked what paper I use to trace like this, and it's honestly just the cheapest baking paper from Coles. It's terrible for baking, but works perfectly for tracing out patterns. Okay, so there were only 3 pieces to trace out in the end because I realised these rectangles, they've actually given them measurements to be able to just make your own template. I've also marked out all the pleat lines that are needed to create the pleats that were kind of on the template. You can kind of see them here. That was a bit tricky with all that line work. It was a bit confusing as to what was a pleat line and what was part of a different template piece, but I managed to get there in the end. And there's also these cute little illustrations showing where the binding's going to go to make that gathered waist later on. So I thought that was really cute. Now I need to cut them out of my fabric, and by the looks of this diagram, the two main skirt pieces are going to be cut on the fold of the fabric. Compared to when I've traced out these Japanese sewing pattern pieces in the past, this definitely didn't take that long. So either I'm getting better at reading these types of chaotic paper patterns, or this pattern book is slightly easier. Maybe with the color coding it makes it a lot easier as well. I definitely didn't find it as difficult as the last two projects I've made using one of these books. So as I get in and get started on cutting out this pattern, let's just take a quick break to talk about the sponsor of this video. This video has been very kindly sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence and launch your passion project. Whether you'd like to start making and selling your own products, create a beautiful portfolio to showcase your work, write a blog, or simply create any website of any kind, you can design and create your dream website all by yourself with Squarespace. You simply select from their range of beautifully designed templates, and then you can customize and change the template as much or as little as you like. You can change everything from the overall layout of the website to all the fun things like the fonts and colors with just a few clicks, no knowledge or background needed in coding whatsoever. I've personally been using Squarespace to run the Rosery Apparel website and online store since 2016, well before they were ever a sponsor of my channel. Squarespace make running a website so stress-free and easy, and I'm easily able to add any type of feature to my website to be able to run my business successfully. Also, Squarespace have a range of different payment plans available, and with the plan I'm on, I don't have to pay any commission on any of the sales I make through my website, which as a small business owner I really appreciate, as knowing the exact amount that is leaving my bank account every month without any hidden or unexpected fees is honestly such a relief, and is just another reason why I love Squarespace so much. So if you'd like to create a beautiful website of your own, then I totally recommend you go and check out Squarespace using the link in the description below this video and take advantage of their free trials so you can really test out just how easy it is to use for yourself. Then when you're ready to launch your website, head to squarespace.com/roseryapparel for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much, Squarespace, for being such an incredible supporter of my channel and for sponsoring this video. Okay, so it is the next day now and I'm excited to have a full cozy day of sewing today. The weather is actually pretty wild outside. It's super windy and I think it might rain later. I'm hoping it will anyway, because there is nothing better than a cozy rainy sewing day. I've just made myself a cup of tea and I've been reading through the instructions. Honestly, I already am pretty confused. The first few steps seem pretty straightforward, but then things get a little bit confusing. Like the images are quite intense. Let me show you. Especially here on this second page. I don't know. We will worry about that when we get to it, but for now I think I need to start by putting the pleats on the skirto. I think I might use Google Translate just to help me get started, because I actually can't tell which of the skirt pieces is the front and which one's the back. I'm assuming, actually, if I had to guess, I would say the one that has that intricate drawing of the like binding on the waistband, I'd say that's the back of the skirt and the other one's the front. And I think we're starting, can you hear the wind out there? It is blowing a gale. Man, they both look the same. Let me get back to you on this. I think first I need to figure out which is the skirt front and which is the skirt back, because that's kind of important. Okay, so I've decided not to use Google Translate because it kind of takes away the challenge of it a little bit. So what I've done is, here you can see this piece, hopefully you can see, has a symbol there and then it says skirt. And then this one has a symbol there and then it says skirt. So one is the front, one is the back. I'm assuming this might be the front, this one's the back. And we're going to start with the piece that has this symbol, so this one here. I'm actually really happy I've managed to work out that they have two different symbols, so that way I can at least know which one is being worked on, whether or not it's the front or the back. It kind of doesn't matter. It'll all work out, and once it starts being made up, I'm sure I'll be able to tell which one's the front and which one's the back.
So first things first, I marked out all the pleat lines directly onto the skirt fabric pieces with my water erasable pen, using the templates as a guide. I then folded the fabric, matching the pen lines up together to create the pleats, and then pinned them in place.
So I've just followed the picture and I think I've done it right, and according to the diagram there should be 11 centimeters in between each pleat. So let's measure it now and see if I've done it right. It looks like it should be about 11. Oh, looking good. That one's a little shorter. 11, 11, okay. This one's a little shorter. Why is that? Just try this one out a little bit. Let's try there. So I think I've done it right. That was really not how I was expecting these pleats to go. I don't know if they're a different type of pleat, but it looks cool. That's better. 11, 11, 11. Now I just need to stitch these folds in place. And then I think we get started on the waistband.
I then stitched the pleats in place, and every time I sew over pins like this, I get comments saying I shouldn't, but it's totally fine to sew over pins like this if they're running perpendicular to the stitch line. I've been doing it for literally a decade and I've never had an issue. Once the pleats had been stitched in place, I gave them a good press with my iron, which really helped to keep the folds of the fabric in place.
I had just lined up the waistband to sew along the top edge here, but for some reason it was a little bit too short, even though I was really careful to add the seam allowance that the instructions said to add. So I'm not sure what happened there, but luckily I had enough fabric to cut out another one. This one fits nicely along the top, so now I can attach it to this top edge here. So far so good. The waistband is attached and the pleats are looking so nice with this linen fabric. I've recently started making pleats, and every time I use linen fabric, the pleats just work so nicely with the texture of linen. I don't know what it is about it, but they just look so good. So now we need to look at the instructions. We've done step 1 and 2. And then it jumps to step 5. And the reason I think they've done this, and a few of you pointed this out in my last Sewing a Japanese pattern video, is they've potentially shown these steps in a previous garment. But yeah, I can't seem to find like page number of where to go. So, oh, here are the steps. 1, 2, so that's what I've done. 3, here we go. 3 pockets. Page 51 to 10. Oh, it's probably step 10. Let's have a look. Yep, here we go. So this is how to put the pockets in. They're doing it in the way I don't prefer to do pockets. I like to just stitch the pockets in and then sew around the pockets. I've shared it at least 100 times on my channel already, how I do pockets. Where's step 4? 4, yeah. So I'm assuming then step 4 is stitching the back and the front of the skirt together. Seriously is like a puzzle trying to figure out how to put these garments together, and it's honestly so fun. So page 52 must be here. Yeah, similar to how this dress is made, we're going to stitch the back and the front of the skirt together. But again, I'm just going to use my tried and true pocket method, which I think will be fine.
So to stitch the pockets, I start by pinning them to the sides of the back skirt piece with the right sides of the fabric together, and then stitch the pockets in place. For some reason, the front skirt piece didn't have notches to show me where the pockets were meant to be positioned, so I ended up using the skirt back as a guide to find where the pockets should be positioned on the skirt front. I then stitched these pocket pieces in place as well. Then with the right sides of the fabric facing, I pinned the skirt back to the skirt front, matching the pockets together, and stitched them together along the sides. Here is what we're currently dealing with. The front of the skirt is now attached to the back. I'm 99% sure this is the back and this is the front. And what's cool is the waistband is just on the back only because the actual front piece was longer than the back bit. So I'm intrigued to see how the whole waistband comes together. Steps 1, 2, 3 and 4 are done. So now we're up to step 5, which to me looks like we're going to hem the bottom edge of the skirt. I'm not sure I want to do that just yet though. So I like to wait till the garment's finished before I hem, just in case it's a little bit uneven. So I might skip that for now and move on to overlocking and turning the top edge of the waistband in by about 1 centimeter, I think. Okay, waistband update. I've now folded and pressed it onto the inside of the skirt, and I've done the same for the front as well, but I'm just gonna pin this for now and then focus on the back. Apparently I need to stitch the waistband in place along the back in like a channel to be able to fit some elastic through, like it's pictured here. And see, I'm just gonna leave the front waistband not actually stitched, and then the back will look like this. Once the back waistband channel was stitched, I then measured a piece of elastic along my back, and I made sure that the elastic was pretty snug but still comfortable, as it's really important that the elastic fits snugly at the back, otherwise the finished skirt is going to end up being way too loose in the waist. I then used a safety pin to thread the elastic into the back waistband casing. Okay, so as you can see here, we're just putting the elastic in the back, but these are quite long pieces left over, which is confusing me slightly, because then once the elastic is gathered up, it gets stitched at the seam where the front and the back of the skirt are joined. But again, is this elastic cut or does it continue on? Because then we've got the front of the skirt where we're going to attach some bias binding, and does that mean the elastic's going to keep going along into this channel, or is that just to keep it nice and neat and secure? I would have assumed, looking at the photo, that there is no elastic in the front of the skirt, because like here is the back and that's a whole heap of gathering because of the elastic, and then there is no gathering at the front. I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with what I'm doing. This is the only thing that's making me feel like you actually cut the elastic here, because that doesn't look like it's continued. If it was continued, it would have been drawn like this. I'm pretty sure. It's looking so cute. Again, the linen texture just works so well for like gathering and things like that. It just is such a beautiful fabric to work with. I do feel like the pleats are now a bit redundant now that the gathering's been put in, but maybe they do add a bit of extra body to the gathers. Not sure about that, but it's looking very nice. I love that this gathering is just at the back. I think it's going to make for a really interesting and unique skirt. It's also working out to be quite a quick make as well. Like I'm already finished the back. Now I need to start doing the pleats at the front, I'm pretty sure, which should look really cool because we've already finished the top edge of the skirt. So once the pleats are in, it's kind of done, I think.
So to make the skirt front pleats, I start by stitching the folded waistband in place and then fold the fabric to match up the drawn out pleat lines that I marked out earlier.
It's started raining and I cannot begin to describe how cozy it is in here right now, but I have pinned the pleats in place and now I'm going to stay stitch them with some loose long stitches. So pretty much the same thing as a gathering stitch, but I won't be gathering up the stitches afterwards, and that way it will just keep the pleats in place but can also easily be removed afterwards once the skirt is complete. I actually have this binding here that I purchased specifically for this project, so I'm just going to stitch this onto the inside just to hold those pleats in place, and then all we have to do is hem. It's really come together so quickly.
Once the binding had been stitched in place, I removed the temporary gathering stitches with my seam ripper. Then all that was left to do was hem the entire bottom edge of the skirt.
And the skirt is complete.
Let me get some shots of me wearing it now so you can get a good proper look at it. So in love with this skirt. Firstly, I'm obsessed with the color. I love this very neutral shade of green. It's like a eucalyptus green, which is just so pretty. And B, I'm just so obsessed with all the beautiful details of this skirt. It is such a flattering shape and I'm just so chuffed with the pleating at the front. It just looks so professional. I'm very new to pleating. I haven't really dabbled in it in the past until this year really, and I'm a fan. Obviously I love a good gathered skirt, but pleating is just something a little bit different. It's kind of a little bit more tailored and structured, but it just adds the most interesting detail to a garment. But obviously I also love the fact that there is the gathering at the back. I've been thinking about it a little bit, and I feel like the pleats at the back have helped to make the gathering look more extreme, for lack of a better word. I feel like this skirt has really not used up that much fabric at all for the amount of like gathering there is, and I feel like the pleats have a huge part to play in that. They just make the gathering at the back just a little bit more full without using a whole heap of fabric like normal gathering does. So I do think they were worth doing at the back, and yeah, I am just so in love with this skirt. These Japanese sewing pattern books just keep knocking it out of the park. I'm in love with all 3 garments I've made using these pattern books so far. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed following along as I make this dreamy pleated skirt from a Japanese sewing pattern. Like I said at the start of the video, I'll be sure to leave the entire playlist of these sewing with a Japanese pattern videos down in the description below, so if you did want to watch the 2 previous episodes, you can do that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video until the very end, and I'll see you in the next one.